You know, the honest truth about AI coding in 2026 is that, well, asking an AI to just build a full app is a complete trap.
Oh, absolutely. It's a huge trap.
We all want the easy button. But Claude Code, it isn't a magic tool. It's really the center of an ecosystem.
Yeah, welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are dissecting this fascinating guide, Optimizing Claude Code, the ultimate 2026 workflow guide. And look, if your current workflow is just, opening a chat window, typing build me a website, and just sort of praying...
So many people still do.
Right. If that's you, this is going to be a serious eye-opener. Because today, our mission is really ambitious. We are building a machine.
We're going to follow the entire life cycle of building software with AI in 2026. We'll move from writing code you can actually trust to giving the AI a permanent memory.
Yeah. And then we're looking at making it look good, testing it reality, and finally, this is the crazy part, teaching it to research and evolve on its own. Because if you don't build a system, you just end up with a folder on your desktop named Project Final V4 Really Final, which, that gives me massive anxiety just thinking about it. We have to get away from messy folders and chaotic prompts.
Let's unpack this from the very beginning. Say you were building a custom habit tracker app. Before you can build an entire system around it, you have to be able to trust the foundational code that Claude actually writes.
Exactly. The foundation is everything.
And the source guide points out this fascinating human flaw, a flaw that AI models also seem to share. They are, notoriously gentle on their own work.
Oh, the yes man problem. It plays out constantly in practice. Because of how these models are trained to be helpful, they'll analyze their own output and tell you the code is perfectly fine.
Right.
They do this even when the underlying logic is incredibly weak.
It ignores that a feature might become an absolute nightmare to maintain a year from now.
Yeah, and worse than that, it tells you the logic is pristine when it's actually just a tangled mess. It just wants to give you a positive answer and, move on to the next prompt.
I still blindly trust AI output sometimes and get burned.
We all do. It's human nature.
You just want to believe it worked the first time.
Right, but the proposed solution to this bottleneck is the Codex plugin. It acts as an outside AI agent. Think of it as an entirely separate brain in the room.
Okay.
You install it via GitHub repository, connect it to your account, and it creates this critical feedback loop. Claude builds the habit tracker code, Codex reviews it completely objectively, then Claude improves it. It stops you from blindly accepting that very first draft.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me. The plugin has very specific commands to force this honesty. There is a /Codex adversarial review command.
Yeah, that's a game changer.
It does a much stricter review, right?
Well.
It actively hunts for what might break when your project scales up.
It does not care about being polite at all. It looks for edge cases in your habit tracker that will just crash the server when, say, 10,000 users log in at once.
Wow.
And then there's the /Codex rescue command. If you've spent any time coding with AI, you know the exact feeling we're talking about. You ask it to fix a bug, it breaks something else. You ask it to fix that beeline.
Suddenly it's reverting code from 3 hours ago, the endless doom loop.
The doom loop, yes. Codex Rescue steps in, takes over that specific chunk of failing code, and just breaks the cycle so you can actually move forward.
But wait, why not just open a new chat window and ask Claude to review its own work again?
You need an outside perspective. An AI grading its own test always cheats.
That makes perfect sense. It's all about structural honesty, setting a baseline of trust before moving to the next step. So Codex rescued us from a logic loop. We have a backend that won't collapse. But where do the ideas, the prompts, and the context actually go?
Well, this is the memory problem. Without a structure, your project knowledge just vanishes the second you close the chat window. You end up with random notes everywhere. Old research gets completely lost.
It's kind of like giving an incredibly smart goldfish a permanent index diary.
That's exactly it. Because Claude, like all LLMs, really has amnesia every time you start a new session. It's brilliant, but it's a goldfish. Obsidian is the diary.
The author suggests using Obsidian because it's a free Markdown organizer app. Let's define Markdown really quickly for everyone.
Sure.
It's just a super simple text formatting system, no heavy complex code, just plain text with basic symbols for headings and lists. You use it to turn basic folders on your computer into a clean, searchable knowledge base.
Yeah, you can have dedicated folders for your research, your projects, prompts, docs. It's a very simple alternative to complex databases. It's absolutely perfect for beginners.
Right.
But a folder of text files doesn't really help an AI by itself. The real magic happens when you install Obsidian skills alongside it.
The Obsidian skills are basically the hands that let the goldfish open the diary.
Exactly. They allow Claude to actually search your markdown notes directly. It can create folder structures on its own.
Wow.
It can update existing files and connect related ideas for your habit tracker rather than just randomly dumping code snippets everywhere.
It builds continuity. It stops Claude from treating every single interaction like a fresh start.
Yeah.
It gives the AI a dedicated place to read from and write to locally on your machine.
And that context is invaluable.
How does Claude actually know where to put a new idea?
Obsidian skills give it rules to read your folder structure before writing anything down,
So it learns the neighborhood before it builds the house.
which is crucial when you start dealing with complex layouts later on.
Right, because now our backend is organized. It's trustworthy. But users don't interact with backend logic. They interact with buttons, layouts, and colors.
Yeah, the fun stuff.
And historically, when you ask an LLM to design a user interface, it's just a complete disaster.
Oh, it screams AI-generated website. It has weird spacing. It uses random gradients. It relies on those boring flat cards.
Always the same blue buttons.
Always. It just assumes generic defaults because it doesn't really have a specific visual taste.
The design gap is very real. We need to set visual constraints early. To fix this, the guide introduces a tool called awesomedesign.MD.
Instead of saying make it look modern, which means literally nothing to a computer, awesomedesign.md provides detailed markdown design files. They contain strict text-based rules for layout, colors, typography, and spacing. Think of like a Notion-style design system, but written purely in text format.
Let's dig into the mechanism there. How does a plain text file translate into visual constraints?
Well, think of it as giving Claude a CSS framework, the code that styles websites, but writing it in plain English rules. You replace visual intuition with mathematical layout rules.
Interesting.
You ask Claude to read this specific markdown file first. The file says all primary buttons must have exactly 8 pixels of padding and use this specific hexkin for blue.
You create a visual foundation so the AI doesn't have to guess.
Yeah.
It just follows the math.
And it is absolutely brilliant for soft apps, dashboards, and landing pages. You stop the weird visual choices entirely because you've just removed the guesswork.
But doesn't giving it a strict template just turn every app into a clone?
It learns the structural rules of good design, applying them to your unique app.
So it's learning the architecture, not just copying the paint job.
Exactly.
You use the file as a vocabulary for design that goes way beyond basic HTML. So the app works in theory. It looks beautiful thanks to awesomedesign.md, but does it survive contact with actual users?
That is always the terrifying moment in development. Testing reality. You have to see what happens when someone actually clicks around. The guide highly recommends using the Playwright CLI.
CLI. Let's clarify that real quick. Command line interface. Basically, a way to interact with your computer by typing text commands instead of clicking icons.
Spot on.
Playwright is a free, practical browser automation tool.
Yeah, older testing tools used to just take screenshots. They'd look for a picture of a button. Playwright is entirely different. It reads the underlying page structure under the hood.
Yeah.
The actual document object model.
Right.
It doesn't just look at a picture. It knows what the button actually is in the code.
So it lets Claude open a real, live browser window right on your machine. It can simulate a user clicking the Add Habit button. It tests how the layout shifts on a mobile screen.
That's wild to watch.
It actually fills out and submits forms to see if the database catches the data.
But the guide wisely advises starting small here. Don't ask Playwright to test your whole app on day one. Test one specific user action.
Keep it simple.
Yeah, try testing a simple sign-up flow first. Build your test slowly from that single foundation. Otherwise, the AI just gets totally overwhelmed by the feedback.
Can Claude really write the code and simulate the human clicking the mouse?
Yes. Playwright acts as its hands, testing the actual user journey completely automatically.
It's writing the script and then playing the lead actor. It is a completely closed loop of testing.
It's incredible. And once that testing loop is solid, you can start feeding it real information.
All right, the app is tested and ready. But to make it truly useful, we need to feed it real-world data. If our habit tracker is going to suggest routines based on, say, top health blogs, Claude needs to read those blogs.
Right.
And we have to do that without completely overwhelming Claude's brain.
This brings us to information gathering. We're using Firecrawl CLI and Notebook LMPy. These are two very powerful ways to get data into the system.
Firecrawl CLI is fascinating. It scrapes web data, things like competitor pricing or heavy product documentation. But the internet is, well, it's chaotic.
Oh, it is incredibly messy. Normal web browsing tools just crash on bad HTML, or they get stuck on complex JavaScript loading screens.
Yeah.
Firecrawl bypasses all of that. It navigates anti-bot systems seamlessly.
And it brings back incredibly clean markdown or JSON data. JSON is just a lightweight, structured way to store data. Essentially, Firecrawl strips away all the messy, invisible code that makes a website look pretty and just hands Claude the raw, structured text it can actually read.
We should definitely note, though, the guide explicitly warns you to respect website scraping rules. You should only use it for public, useful research, never for private or restricted data.
Absolutely. But even with clean data, you run into massive analytical walls. Say you scraped 50 hours of health podcast transcripts. If you feed that directly into Claude, you will burn through your token limits in seconds.
No, instantly.
Tokens are essentially the pieces of words an AI model processes. More text equals more tokens, which costs more money in processing power.
And that is exactly where Notebook LM saves the day. It connects Claude directly to Google's Notebook LM via the command line. It offloads the heavy analysis of those massive sources, things like dense PDFs or giant YouTube transcripts.
It processes all of that on Google servers.
That is huge because it saves your project's precious tokens. You just have to keep your notebooks focused on single projects. You really want to avoid cross-contamination of ideas.
Makes sense.
But whoa, I mean, imagine scaling to 1 billion queries across YouTube transcripts seamlessly. It fundamentally changes how we handle research.
Why use Firecrawl instead of just letting Claude browse the web normally?
Normal browsing crashes on messy code. Firecrawl translates the chaotic web into clean data.
A universal translator for the chaotic internet.
Yeah.
I like that. And once you translate the internet, you have to store it. As your project data grows from a few web scrapes to an enterprise level, that Obsidian diary is no longer enough.
No, it's not.
You need to scale the AI's access to information and its access to your daily life.
We step into the big leagues here, scaling the brain. We are talking about LightRAG and the GWS CLI.
Let's define the jargon quickly.
Yeah.
FARAG, a way to fetch relevant documents before answering a user's question.
Perfect. LightRAG is a lightweight, open-source graph RAG system. It is designed for massive document sets. We are talking thousands of client files or massive internal company wikis and support tickets.
Right.
Graph RAG maps relationships between concepts, so it understands context way better than a standard search.
Moving from Obsidian to LightRAG is kind of like upgrading from a personal filing cabinet to a corporate librarian.
The diary is great for personal thoughts, sure. But when you have a library of 10,000 books, you need a librarian who knows exactly which paragraph on which page has the answer.
Exactly.
And then you have the GWS CLI. This connects Claude directly to Google Workspace.
Gmail, Google Calendar, Google Drive. It turns Claude into a true personal assistant, not just a coding tool. It can check your calendar before writing a script.
It can, but the guide warns to start small here too. Don't connect everything at once. Start with Gmail and Calendar. If you load too many skills, you'll overwhelm your workspace, and the AI might literally start hallucinating emails.
Is LightRAG too heavy for a solo developer?
It is free and lightweight, making it the perfect stepping stone for growing projects.
So what does this all mean? It means the ceiling for a solo operator has been completely removed. You can scale indefinitely if the architecture is right.
Yep.
But the final step isn't just bolting on more tools. It's creating a system where the AI learns to do its specific job better over time.
This is arguably the most powerful part of the workflow guide. We are looking at auto research and the creator skill.
Auto research essentially runs A/B testing experiments on your scripts or skills. You define a clear, measurable goal. Say, make these habit summary reports shorter and more accurate.
And then it tests different changes automatically. It throws away the bad versions. It keeps only what improves the test score.
Wow.
It evolves the code iteratively. It applies literal evolutionary pressure to your system.
Then there is the creator skill. It's a meta skill. It helps you build and benchmark your own custom clog skills. For example, you might build a custom bug report writer.
This solves a huge problem with custom tools. People build tools that sound confident but are actually terrible in practice.
Right.
The creator skill tests new custom skills against default Claude outputs. It does this to prove they actually add real value. It prevents you from using tools that just sound better but actually aren't.
Hold on. You're saying we use a creator skill to have Claude build a new tool, and then we have Claude create its own tool. isn't an AI benchmarking its own custom skills a massive conflict of interest?
That is exactly why you define strict objective scoring rules before running any tests.
Objective rules. You force it to use binary scoring so it can't just flatter itself. You have to tell it exactly what good looks like first.
Because without objective rules, you are just measuring hallucinations. The consequence of not having rules is a totally useless feedback loop.
Let's step back and look at the big picture here. Let's synthesize the main takeaway from all of these sources.
The best 2026 setup isn't about installing every shiny new command line interface. It is really about building a customized, highly targeted system.
Let Claude build.
Mhm.
Let Codex review. Let Obsidian store knowledge. Let Playwright test.
Stop looking for a magic wand. Start building a robust workflow. Pick the tools that fix your actual current bottlenecks. Don't install massive database architecture until your backend is actually painful to manage.
Which leads to a thought I just can't quite shake. If we've reached a point where the AI is writing the code, testing the UI, reviewing its own logic, and even scraping the web to research its own improvements, what is the core skill of the human developer tomorrow?
That is the real question. The paradigm has shifted entirely.
Maybe it's no longer about typing code, but being the architect of the system.
The human as the orchestrator. I love that.
We encourage you to pick just one bottleneck in your workflow today. Find it and apply the right tool to fix it. Because as we realized at the start, Claude Code isn't a magic tool. It's just the center of a very powerful ecosystem.
Until next time.
Take care.